role in the world is vital, especially right now, as we work together with other countries to support Ukraine and take on the challenges that demand international cooperation, and from tackling the climate crisis to strengthening the global economy. And before I leave, I wanted to say a word about the status of negotiations with the congressional leaders. We had a productive meeting yesterday, and with all four leaders in the Congress. It was civil and respectful, and everyone came to the meeting, I think, in good faith. I'm confident that we'll get the agreement on the budget, that America will not default. And every leader in the room understands the consequences if we fail to pay our bills. And it would be catastrophic for the American economy and the American people if we didn't pay our bills. And I'm confident everyone in the room agreed with the speaker, from the speaker to the majority leader, to the majority leader in the House and the Senate, the majority leader in the Senate, the minority leader in the Senate, as well as the Democratic leader in the House. So we're going to come together because there's no alternative to do the right thing for the country. We have to move on. And to be clear, this negotiation is about the outlines of what the budget will look like, not about whether or not we're going to, in fact, pay our debts. The leaders have all agreed we will not default. Every leader has said that. And I'm proud of the progress my administration has made. We reduced the deficit in the first 2 years by $1.7 trillion in the first 2 years. And I proposed a budget that would reduce another $3 trillion over the next decade. That includes more revenue by asking the wealthy and large corporations to begin to pay their fair share, and cutting subsidies that exist in the law now to big oil and big pharma. Yesterday, we all agreed that both the Speaker McCarthy and I would designate senior members that we would negotiate to give our authority to make agreements in detail what we wanted. So we narrowed the group. To meet and hammer out our differences. And we've done that. In fact, they met last night. And they're going to be meeting again today. And I'll be in constant contact with my team while I'm at the G7. And I'll be in close touch with Speaker McCarthy and other leaders as well. Now, what I have done in anticipation that we won't get it all done till I get back is I've cut my trip short in order to be for the final negotiations and sign the deal with the majority leader. I made clear that, and I'll say it again, America is not a deadbeat nation. We pay our bills. The nation has never defaulted on its debt, and it never will. And we're going to continue these discussions with congressional leaders in the coming days until we reach an agreement, and I'll have more to say about that on Sunday.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top story.
Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates, and for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube
we
channel.
all know and love our B1 brother Gavin, also known as G-Boot.
I'll holla. Peace.
Born and raised in New Orleans, Gavin and his father created an authentic Creole-style seasoning called Nani's.
All right, so we just tried the chicken, and we put the tried the chicken with some Nani's. We added some Nani's Creole blends, as y'all saw earlier. And Dad is shouting out, Dad, how was it? It goes great, obviously. That's what he said. So that's Nani's Creole Blends, ladies and gentlemen. You can go to our website, Nani's, Nonis, CreoleBlends.com. NONISCreoleBlends.com, ladies and gentlemen. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. Oh, I can smell it right there.
Go ahead. You know how to do it, Nina.
Anyway, guys, try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. Go to NonisCreoleBlends.com and order you some Nani's Creole Blends, ladies and gentlemen. Happy 4th of July. Oh, we're going to try some more. Can't wait for the burgers.
Make your food more flavorful. Chicken, meat, or fish, Nani's goes great with every dish. Order at NonisCreoleBlends.com. We all know and love our
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting edition of Random Topic Thursdays here on channel G Boo 276, Gavin Richard on Facebook, as well as YouTube, and on Periscope at Gavin Bridge 2786. Wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Greetings, family. We are coming live, of course, from my hometown of New Orleans, and all the way from the Boogie Down Bronx is my friend, our author extraordinaire, Brother Shawn James, author of The Man Crisis as well as The Woman Crisis. And Sean's going to do a plug-in, I'm sure, right now. Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Gavin. How are you?
Doing good. Why don't you go ahead and give this plug-in right now?
Okay, my newest book, John Haynes, 1987, is available in paperback right now, and you can pre-order a copy on Kindle and Google Play. And I also have the John Haynes comic book available on Lulu.com and a lot of other great SJS Direct titles on Amazon.com and other online booksellers.
All right. So, Sean, let's talk. I think everybody saw from the video what we were discussing tonight is what you saw from the thumbnail. The big question that's going on is for us is can and will the United States recover and paying its debts? Now, for those that may or may not know, the United States has a deficit right now. And the United States is in debt as of right now, according to the Treasury Department, and you can look at the stats right here. The national debt is $31 trillion. I'm not exaggerating that amount. This is from treasury.gov. You can all look at it right here. Fiscaldata.treasury.gov. They list that the national debt of the United States is the total amount is 31,458,000,000,000. $34,662,625. And it is growing. Now, you look here for year one, they give some examples, especially how it's explained. National debt is the amount of money the federal government has borrowed to cover the outstanding balance of expenses incurred over time. In a given fiscal year, when spending exceeds revenue, a budget deficit results. So I took economics when I was in college. And what they're talking about basically is that when you're spending money that you don't have. That's what creates debt. It's like building a line of credit. You got to eventually pay that off, and there's a limit to your credit. But the United States keeps pushing that limit. So to pay for this deficit, the United States, the federal government borrows money by selling marketable securities such as bonds, treasury bonds, bills, notes, floating rate notes, and treasury inflation protected securities. The national debt is the accumulation of this borrowing along with associated interest owed to the investors who purchase these securities. Can you all see that?
I can
Shawn,
see it.
okay. I'm gonna zoom in so y'all can see it, but so they give a breakdown. So if you go down further, the United States has carried debt since its inception. Debts incurred during the American Revolutionary War amounted to over 75 million by January 1st, 1791. That's nothing compared today. I wish we could have had that today than what we have now. Then over the next 45 years, the debt continued to grow until 1835 when it notably shrank due to the sale of federally owned lands and cuts to the federal budget. Shortly thereafter, an economic depression caused the debt to again grow into the millions. The debt grew over 4,000% through the course of the American Civil War, increasing from 65 million in 1860 to 1 billion in 1863 and around 2.7 billion shortly after the conclusion of the war in 1865. The debt grew steadily into the 20th century and was roughly 22 billion after the country financed its involvement in World War I. Notable recent events triggering large spikes in the debt include the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars, the 2008 Great Recession, and the COVID-19 pandemic. So from fiscal year 2019 to fiscal year of 2021, spending increased by about 50%, largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, tax cuts, stimulus programs, increased government spending, and decreased tax revenue caused by widespread unemployment generally account for sharp rises in the national debt. So what we have now with the deficit, this is the deficit, which occurs when the federal government spending exceeds its revenues. The federal government has spent 925 billion more than it's collected in fiscal year 2023, resulting in a national deficit. And here a budget deficit occurs when the money going out exceeds the money coming in for a given period. On this page, we calculate the deficit by the government's fiscal year. In the last 50 years, the federal government budget has run a surplus 5 times, most recently in 2001. To pay for government programs while operating under a deficit, the federal government borrows money by selling U.S. Treasury bonds, bills, and other securities. The national debt is the accumulation of this borrowing along with associated interest owed to investors who purchase these securities. Now, we say a deficit occurs when there's more government spending than what they're actually collecting, what they're saving, right? So the federal government has run deficits for the last 20 years. So you think about this, this is 2023. We've been dealing with deficits since at least 2003. And if you remember, it was around that time when we were in 2 wars, Afghanistan and Iraq. Now, to get back though to this chart, this is for the fiscal year of 2022. There's a $1.38 trillion deficit to 4.9 trillion revenue, but the spending, Shawn, was 6.27 trillion. Let's just say $6 trillion. So you had a deficit of 1.38 trillion, but the revenue was 4.9 trillion. You didn't save anything, and you spent more than what you had. Sounds about right. So, yeah. So we heard from the president. I played the video earlier. I have another video. By the way, I'm going to talk about this too. There are articles of impeachment that Marjorie Taylor Greene are introducing to have Joe Biden, President Biden, impeached. I don't know if anybody saw that today, but she was holding a press conference, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to play this video before I get to you, Shawn, because everybody needs to see this. I thought this was funny. Now, this was from 3 months earlier. Now, listen carefully to what President Biden had to say.
Will not let anyone use the full faith and credit of the United States as a bargaining chip. The United States of America, we pay our debts. It took 200 years to accumulate that debt. And the very notion that we would default on the safest, most respected debt in the world is mind-boggling. I'm not going to get into the reckless threats and take the economy hostage in order to force an agenda that's going to only limit American workers and weaken us internationally. I won't let that happen. I will not let anyone use the full faith and credit of the United States as a bargaining chip. The United States of America, we pay our debts. It took 200 years to accumulate that debt. And the very notion that we would default.
We ain't out of it yet. He's proud of the debt. I'm proud that we defaulting on our student loans, that our homes are being foreclosed. It took 200 years for this, and damn it, we're going to see it through.
On the safest, most respected.
That make any sense? Did that make sense? Shawn?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
So I want to show this before you get your comment, Shawn. I just, YouTube disables their likes, but I was able to look at this. The likes to dislikes on NBC News, there are over 959 likes to 3,400 dislikes to the president's comments, over 160,000 views. The majority disliked this speech. One person wrote, the federal debt limit has been raised 78 times since 1960. It has never been lowered. It's like a New Year's resolution, forgotten a few weeks after it's enacted. What we don't realize, though, is that one of the things that hurt the United States, though, in the 70s was when Richard Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. And he was the first president to actually visit the People's Republic of China, or as Trump would say, China. And it is China to whom we owe a large debt to. That's why when you look at most of your products, if you carefully look at the back, it says made in China. Very rarely do you see items or made in Japan. Your video games made in Japan. Very rarely are your video consoles made in Japan. Very rarely do you see anything made in the USA today. What's happening? Shawn.
Yeah.
Your take on this?
Well, my take on this is just more political theater from Joker Joe. And this is a game that has been played for over 50 years here in America as related to the national debt. And what they do is try to get all of these Americans scared out here with this semi-annual crap test. America has always had a national debt due to years of fiscal mismanagement. And due to years of fiscal mismanagement, what they do is come out here and talk about the deficit to try to cover for their spending on both the left side and the right side. And what they want to do is get a whole bunch of Americans out here panicking as related to the national debt. And the whole thing is that Joker Joe wants to try to play this game because he knows the 2024 election is coming, and he wants to go out here and make the red party look like the bad guys who messed up the economy, when in actuality it was him who messed up the economy with his ironically titled American Rescue Plan And this American screw job plan has basically led to America defaulting on, not defaulting, but having these debt problems as related to spending. Now, a lot of that spending had to do with the COVID pandemic, and many people didn't really want to think critically about all the bills we were incurring as related to the pandemic. And what added the compounding to it was Joe Biden's American screw job plan. And as he created this screw job plan, it has put America in the red and in a dire state as related to the red. And what he wants to do is try to make it look like the Republicans are the bad guy in this latest round of political theater. But this whole round of political theater is falling on deaf ears because people look at most of Biden's economic policies as the reason why the country is in such bad shape right now. From his decision to stop the production of the Keystone pipeline to his efforts to try to force jab mandates all across the nation to other policies he's put into place, it has been the Biden administration that has drove inflation and driven the economy into the sad state of affairs that it's in. And now he wants to try to blame the Red Party for many of his policies and try to make it look like we are being held hostage by a red Congress. So this is just more political theater, and both sides know that they don't want to play this hand because if they go out here and default on these debts, then both parties are assured to lose the election in 2024. So I doubt either side is going to try to go out here and make a default because a default guarantees a loss of the election next year.
So you see, well, I mean, usually when this stuff comes, I've seen them, like for instance, if you remember a couple of years ago when they were talking about how the federal government was going to be shut down, it was shut down looming, and at the last minute they come up with a deal, everything's reopened again. So it seems like it's like the puppet master controlling the puppet with the strings, just getting everybody excited, and then finally they resolve to something. So you
Yeah,
don't,
that's
so
what
you,
they do.
so you don't see that the United States is not going to be without a deal, a debt is not going to breach the debt ceiling.
They know if they breach the debt ceiling, they're going to lose the voters. They know that if you play this game like two divorced parents, what you're going to do is start to alienate your voting base because they're going to see you as incompetent. Now, they already see Joe Biden as incompetent, and his poll numbers are at an all time low. And if he fails as related to the debt ceiling, he's basically guaranteed that he is not going to be able to run in 2024 because he's already shown that he's just not able to lead the country. People already don't trust him on that side. And with Kevin McCarthy, they don't trust them on as well. So
Yeah,
this would be a disaster that would lead to both parties basically losing as related to the election. And both sides know that if they play this game too long, like two divorced parents, they're going to wind up alienating the country and they're going to wind up losing the voting blocks because nobody will trust them at that point.
Sean, when you say they're going to end up losing at the election, somebody's got to win. So what do you mean by that? I mean,
It means that's just going to open it up for new candidates to step in and say these
so you
people are
think
too.
we have a third party candidate that could come in?
I think a third party or even Donald Trump can come in because Donald Trump is a wild card here. And while he has suffered a hit as related to his support, this would basically open the door for his supporters to say Joe Biden's incompetent, the Red Party is incompetent, and it opens the door for Donald Trump to capitalize because he's the strongest candidate as related so far. And he could basically open the door up with a third party and come right in because he's going to say, oh, both of these sides really aren't about serving America. And this could be the door that opens for him to capitalize on it.
Would you vote for him?
I'm not voting for anybody until there's some tangibles on the table for Black people.
Right. Right. I agree. And you're not going to be vote shamed either this
No,
coming election. Yeah. I'm getting the feeling a lot of people are feeling that thing. They're not feeling Biden. They're not certainly not feeling Harris. And I think that is actually going to be the big factor because if something, not saying that it will, but if some Joe Biden, let's put it a safe way, he's not able to fulfill his duties as president due to his age. You really want Kamala Harris in charge of the entire United States military?
No, she's incompetent.
You want, she's barely seen today. I'm hearing she doesn't even read, they had that story that broke out. Nearly half her staff quit. She doesn't read the pleadings. She doesn't read briefings, excuse me, that they present to her. I've heard that she's been rude to her guests, to her staff, which is another reason why they've quit. And she just panders too much. And we're going to talk about pandering in a little bit because your representatives out of Chicago, the mayor out of Chicago and Representative Cori Bush have been doing some pandering, you're going to hear. But both parties, exactly, Darius, have run up the debt. Trump in the stimulus checks, he added more debt in 9 months than the previous 20 years. Well, here's the thing. All that Trump did, and I'm being real. If I'm looking at it, I'm not looking at it from an emotional standpoint. Oh, he said this and talked ugly. A lot of stuff he did actually helped America. If we're being real, some things he was doing, I'm talking about the executive orders he was signing, putting tariffs on foreign companies so that we could get tax them for that, get money from it, especially our American companies. The Keystone Pipeline. When Biden came in office, as you pointed out, he shut all of that down, and many people were out of a job as a result of that. That was big. And then in the United States, we had this struggle for oil. We didn't even want to open up our oil reserves in Hawaii. And that's the United States. So I couldn't understand that. By the way, did y'all know Hillary Clinton said she thinks Biden is going to win? She doesn't think Trump will win if he got reelected. She's going for Biden. I just saw that. But, Hillary has been a non-factor for the last 8 years. Who cares what she thinks? But what say you, family? You think the United States is going to be able to recover? I want you all to do me a favor, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Donate to the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle just to support our channel since YouTube is taking away my monetization. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Shout out to Cheryl Massey. I hadn't seen you in a while. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you to Darius, as always here, Phantom Beat. Tom Petty. I think Tom is new. Yeah. Shout out to Computer Robots. That's why they keep sending aid packages to Ukraine. They're trying to export the inflation, but they printed so much money during COVID, they can't send money fast enough. At this point, guys, you can't trust anybody. Now, I just wanted to tell you this. I should let you know, Shawn, since you're out in New York, the stock actually has done pretty good. The stock exchange, the Dow was up by 0.34%. S&P 500 was up to 0.94, and NASDAQ was up by 1.5. They were not phased, obviously, because they know that things are going to get done. It hasn't affected the stock market. Now, some of you all have been wondering, or maybe wondering, will this affect my 401k? Because as you know, many Americans have their retirement funds, their pensions, their 401 and mutual funds in the stock market. And they say about half of American households own stocks in either directly or indirectly through mutual funds or 401k accounts. So stock market decline will reduce household wealth across a large portion of America and affect everything from college savings plans to retirement plans. Let me just share that with y'all right quick. And I'm going to move to the next thing I want to discuss. So they say it could affect everything from college savings plans to retirement plans, and they do have the debt ceiling. This graph has the debt ceiling, debt line. So this is a record high Treasury bill interest rate spiked to a record high as debt ceiling talk stalled. Since the beginning of April, the S&P 500 has fluctuated less than 3%, suggesting most investors outside bond markets appear unmoved by the debt ceiling impossible. So, seems to have no effect on stock. But, in order to make it with stock, a lot of money. And you have to invest in, first off, if you want to see a profit, you got to put a lot of money into it. And then the second thing you got to do, you got to make sure you put it into a product that's not going to fail. I hope y'all didn't put nothing in Anheuser-Busch, because that was a flop, what they did. That was worse than the Gillette commercial. Shawn.
Yeah, it was. It was just
Yeah,
pandering to an audience that doesn't exist and alienating the customers you already have.
yeah, correct. The next thing I want to talk about is Panda Bear. Now, shout out to my man TD Hip Hop. Oh, I'm sorry. I probably should have, before I moved on with this, I do need to point this out. I mentioned that Marjorie Taylor Greene had announced that they were bringing impeachment charges against Joe Biden. I don't think it's going to go anywhere personally, but let me just play the clip, because I don't think everybody's play some of it, because I don't think everybody heard this crazy ass press conference from this heifer. But go ahead. Let's go ahead and just play that, okay?
The Constitution was written by men who believed in a God-fearing nation, provides the ultimate guide on how to govern a civil society. Every word was carefully chosen to give each branch of government the power to check and temper the other. These men knew that with unchecked power, any branch of government could lose sight of the job they were hired to do and become beholden solely to the power they wield. This is what has happened in America today. Power corrupts. The Biden administration is proof of it. From the top down, virtually every person involved in this disturbing America Last executive branch has weaponized their office to target their political opponents. It's unprecedented, and it's not the American way. This week, I've solemnly and soberly chosen to use the powers that the founders provided and issue a check against what the Biden administration thinks are unfettered powers. It's something I don't take lightly. On Tuesday, I submitted articles of impeachment against the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves. Mr. Graves is derelict in his duty as the chief prosecutor for Washington, D.C. He is in a unique position of the top law enforcement officer for both federal and local crimes, but he's refusing to do his job. Under his watch, 67% of arrests have gone unprosecuted. Many of these are violent crimes where the victims are left wondering, where has justice gone? It's no wonder that he is ignoring these acts that destroy the lives of residents of our nation's capital, because he is solely focused on a 3-hour event that happened on January 6, 2021. He is devoting his entire office to maliciously prosecuting as many people as he possibly can, including nonviolent, peaceful protesters. Graves is refusing to do his job. He must be impeached. On Tuesday, I also submitted articles of impeachment against FBI Director Christopher Wray. Director Wray has turned the Federal Bureau of Investigation into the personal police force of Joe Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland. It is wholly unacceptable for the FBI director or any civil officer to use their power in a way that targets one political class and favors another. Wray has used Soviet-style tactics in his targeting of average Americans and placed threat tags on everyone from pro-life groups to traditional Catholics. He even sent armed agents to the home of President Donald Trump, who is also the current frontrunner in the Republican presidential election, in a politically motivated raid to influence an upcoming election, all while shielding the current Democrat president's vile son from a criminal probe.
She's talking
Wray is
about
using his
Hunter Biden.
extremely powerful law enforcement role for political purposes. He must be impeached. Yesterday morning, I introduced articles of impeachment against Attorney General Merrick Garland. Since Merrick Garland took over as Attorney General, he has completely weaponized the Department of Justice to the point under his control it has become the Department of Injustice. The politicization of the DOJ has resulted in the persecution of the left's political enemies and a two-tier justice system. Garland is using the FBI as the personal police force for his boss, Joe Biden. He has launched investigations into everyone from parents who protest their local school boards to former and future President Donald J. Trump. Nothing short of election interference. His corruption knows no bounds.
With Trump.
While Antifa and BLM terrorists have caused billions of dollars in property damage and taken lives, Garland instead persecutes Americans who engaged in legitimate political protest, people who were overwhelmingly nonviolent, many of them just walking through the Capitol. Garland's total politicization and perversion of the American justice system has only one remedy: impeachment. Yesterday, I also introduced articles of impeachment against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Since assuming office, Secretary Mayorkas has aided and abetted the complete invasion of our country by deliberately flooding our nation with drugs, terrorists, and illegal aliens. Mayorkas has allowed approximately 6 million illegal border encounters and 1.4 million known gotaways. But how many more don't we even know about? He has intentionally diverted resources away from our borders, stopped construction of the border wall, and broke existing laws by allowing mass parole for illegal aliens. Mayorkas ended President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and we are back to the days of catching and releasing illegal aliens directly into the United States. Mayorkas stated under oath that we have operational control of our borders. He lied to the American people, he lied under oath, and he has blatantly violated his oath of office.
All right, I had enough. So she's just impeaching everybody that's not with her agenda. I mean, they do tit for tat. Now, of course, what she was talking about with Biden, she's talking about she talked about the documents that they found. Remember when Biden had some classified documents even in his car garage at his home, even mentioning that thing with Hunter Biden and his laptop, because we've heard stuff about how Biden used his, and I played the video before Judge Joe Brown talked about it, but how he basically used his clout as vice president of Ukraine in order to get his son a job, allegedly, to withhold federal money, to withhold federal funding, to stop the prosecution of Hunter Biden. You've heard of that, Shawn, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So she's bringing these articles of impeachment. Now, the House is Republican, as we know, but the Senate is Democratic. So it's likely never to happen. But Shawn, give your thoughts.
Well, this looks like another part of the political theater that's going on in Washington because Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't have the votes to even get this bill passed through Congress, let alone get passed through the Senate, which would be the ones who would remove the president as related to an impeachment. And the arguments she makes are all emotion and extremely weak. So she doesn't really lay out a case for how President Biden would be a clear and present danger to anyone. Yes, your Joe Biden is an incompetent and mediocre president, but you have to show a case for where he isn't an effective leader in running the country and where his leadership has basically put America in jeopardy. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has not made any case at all but it makes for very interesting political theater. And it makes for political theater that will just, again, look to scare the American people who have become apathetic as related to these theatrics and see it as a whole effort to basically go out here and divert our attention from them not providing tangibles to the American people who are struggling right now and living paycheck to paycheck. Because how does this help the American people at all? Critical question I would like to ask Marjorie Taylor Greene. How is impeaching President Biden going to help all of your constituents where you are supposed to live and represent? Because I don't see how this helps any of those residents. All I see is another, again, emotional attack on a president that she doesn't like. And you need to have a stronger case if you're going to present impeachment. And it shows me how detached those on the left and the right are from the American people, and how many of them are living in their own reality and living in a fantasy world where they don't see we the people.
Yes, indeed. Um, let's talk about this, Sean. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. You're exactly right. It is political theater. Um, like I said, and everybody knows it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think that's why I don't think this has even gotten that much attention and traction that I've heard in the news. I did see it earlier today, which came to my attention, and yeah, some people are buying it. But do I think it will happen? No. No president has ever been. You can be impeached, but being removed based off the impeachment is another thing. And Donald Trump has been impeached twice, even when he was out of office, and it went nowhere. So it's bread and circuses. So what I wanted to talk about next, though, is Panda Bear. Now, as you know, Sean, recently Brandon Johnson was inaugurated as the mayor of Chicago. And I was watching TV. I didn't watch the inauguration because I knew it was going to be some BS. And I'm not even in Chicago, but, uh, for news purposes, and so everybody can check this out. I listened to Brother TD Hip Hop. Shout out to him. And he played a clip from your Brandon Johnson's inauguration. Now, this might actually make for a good video for you, but I want you to listen to this, and then I'm going to play another clip, another video from Congresswoman Cori Bush about what's going on in Congress with reparations. But I call this Pander Bear because, as you know, election season is coming up, and this is what typical politicians do. But listen to very carefully to what Mayor Johnson has to say about, well, I'm just going to play the clip.
Don't think it's playing.
Let me pause it. This is the Twitter page of the Black Caucus. And it says here, we're proud to be with the Virginia Museum to commemorate the 400-year anniversary of forced African migration. Excuse me? So you know what this is? What I could play it a little bit further. I don't want the brother to give me a copyright strike, but I'll just finish it. No wonder why she's single.
For you to see something that I've heard.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you guys didn't see this and couldn't hear it. Okay, my bad. Basically, let me just play what he said. 'Cause y'all couldn't, I was sitting here thinking you all could hear it. I'm sorry. My bad.
I'm going to do right now is play it for you right now and let me know in the comment section if you actually caught what he said as well.
I'm talking about the soul of Chicago. Because that same soul spurred two immigrants from Guatemala to Humble Park, where they raised a daughter named Delia Ramirez. Who would grow up to make our city proud as a member of the United States Congress. Congresswoman Ramirez was born in the same public hospital where I, a child of the Great Migration, received life-saving asthma treatment. I'm talking about the soul of Chicago.
So in case you missed it, Brandon Johnson referred to himself as a child of the Great Migration in conjunction with the story of Delia Ramirez, who is the daughter of Guatemalans that immigrated to Chicago. Please do not allow that to go over your head, because what Brandon Johnson is doing is something that I've heard many Black politicians attempt to do over the past 3 or so years, where they conflate Black history with the current issue of illegal immigration. Now, that connection is a stretch to say the least, but it's a connection that you'll see some Black politicians attempt to make from time to time. How many of you all remember in 2019 when the Congressional Black Caucus released its tweet stating, "We're proud to be with the Virginia Museum to commemorate the 400-year anniversary of forced African migration to the US." Can somebody please explain to me what in the world is forced African migration? Look at how much of a stretch it is to attempt to convince Black Americans to get on board with accepting illegal immigration and getting on board with open borders.
So this is the Congressional Black Caucus's website. This is what I was saying earlier, and what I was saying with Johnson, as that he made at this speech this comparison about Representative Ramirez out of Chicago with them. She's being born in the same hospital as he was, and he's a child of the Great Migration. And as you know, the Great Migration, as Brother TD Hip Hop was saying, was the point where African Americans, Black Americans, were moving from the South, Shawn, you know this, to the North for better opportunities. That's what he's talking about. And the Congressional Black Caucus actually tweeted out that they're proud to be with the Virginia Museum. So they went to this museum and they celebrated the 400-year anniversary of forced African migration. Excuse me? Forced African migration?
Now, how many of you all remember, I believe it was around the same time period in 2019, when Angela Rye was on the Breakfast Club saying the same thing. Now, unfortunately, I can't play that Breakfast Club clip for you because their YouTube channel will knock me for it. But what I can do is play Angela Rye's salty response after being called out for making such a ridiculous statement.
Yo, I'm not going to tell y'all this anymore. And I'm just going to do this for the people who are in the slow section in the back. I'm in the airport, so pardon the noise. I have never said that people whose ancestors arrived in the belly of a slave ship are immigrants. So GTFOH with that nonsense, okay? Stop following trolls. Stop being convinced by bots. I know my history. My dad has worked very hard on establishing an agenda for descendants of United States slaves. I'm not unclear. You're unclear. Stop with the nonsense. I know you want clicks and follows, and I'm doing it right here so you don't get any clicks and follows off of my influence. I'm out, dumbass.
I see why Common left her ass.
Now, I'm not going to lie to you. That phrase, the child of the Great Migration, is actually pretty clever on Brandon Johnson's behalf. What he's attempting to do is make a connection between the Great Migration, which saw millions of Black Americans flee racial persecution in the South for a better life and a chance at opportunity in the North. Cities like Chicago, New York, Detroit, Los Angeles, Cleveland, and Washington, D.C. saw the bulk of that migration. Now, the ultimate goal is to get Black Americans to sympathize with the so-called migrants. I mean, come on. Don't you see how they migrated from the South and came to the North, just like Black Americans migrated from the South and came to the North? Don't you see how they migrated to the North in search of better opportunities, just like Black Americans migrated to the North in search of better opportunities?
Basically, what he was doing was pandering to the Hispanic, well, I should say the illegal immigrants, because that's what the Democrats are doing today, Shawn. And not just him, of course, he's on the panda train. We got another panda bear. I want y'all to see this. This is my first time seeing this video with y'all, but Tariq Nasheed was talking about it earlier. This is Congresswoman Cori Bush's Twitter page where she's talking about reparations. And y'all just watch for yourselves.
This is a historic day.
They got the black guy in the back with the black power fist with the smile.
This is the day that we say reparations now, and we say it
Getting get out vibes from him, by the way.
by way of introducing legislation into the congressional record. I'm here with none other than Congresswoman Barbara Lee and all the advocates, the coalition of folks that have been doing this reparations work. Say hey, everybody. Reparations now. We're about to go out and introduce this bill, but who got something they want to say?
Run us our money now.
Now.
Free in the making now.
Now. Reparations.
Our ancestors are dancing all over heaven today.
That's right. That's right.
Reparations now.
Reparations now.
Our ancestors wild. That's right. Whose time has come.
Time has come. All right.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. There goes Rainbow Push. All right. Here we go. This is the day.
They took something from Jesse Jackson. I'm already not impressed. As Jay Sherman would say on The Critic, it stinks. Shawn, take it away.
Well, this is the city of Chicago reaping what it sowed. They thought they were going to get a mayor who was going to look out for them, but we clearly see that Brandon Johnson is just another black bootlick. And this bootlick isn't about getting tangibles for black people for their votes. No, this bootlick is out to try to get another job with the Biden administration or whoever is going to be the president next year. So what's happening here is that he's looking to be one of these minorities and not black, and that's going to bite him in the ass later on because he's sitting here thinking, oh, I'm going to go out here and compare black struggles to that of minorities. And as he's sitting here looking to try to compare his story with so-called minorities, what he's doing is going out here and showing most of those black voters that they just basically got screwed for another 4 years. And we clearly see that these black politicians are not for black people and that these black bootlicks are just out here to cause a lot of drama. What we see with these black bootlicks is all they want to do is make a lot of noise, but they don't want to make tangibles for the black people who voted for them. Now, when I look at this new mayor of Chicago, he's no different than Eric Adams, another bootlicking clown who isn't out to serve we, the people, and is only out to serve himself. So this guy basically screwed over most of those constituents, and he's sitting here talking about minorities and looking past all of the black people. And that's the big problem with this so-called black mayor. Again, he wants to be a minority and not a black. And just like those congressional black talkers who just want to talk a good game, but don't want to go out here and present the facts as related to serving black people. And what I see here with this Brandon Johnson, or whatever his name is our problem. Our problem is we keep taking to support these flunkies instead of going out here and picking our own candidates. Because if we picked our own candidates, then we would be guaranteed to get tangibles because that individual is accountable to us, whereas these bootlicks are accountable to their white donor class that give them their money. So most of these candidates, they are just out here out to do the dirty work of their white slave masters. And as they're looking to do the dirty work of their white slave masters, they're not thinking about black people. All they're looking to do is pander to these so-called minorities who go out here and support the red party, because that same Hispanic woman he talks about and many of the members of the Hispanic community, they aren't going to look to support us in getting any tangibles. No, they're looking to replace us and then take those positions for themselves. And that's basically what they did here in New York with Charlie Rangel. He thought, oh, I'm going to go out here and support another minority. Now that Dominican is now controlling his congressional seat while he sits in his retirement on everybody's backs. And what happens is that we have with the community losing because the black politician isn't about serving and empowering black people. They're all about serving minorities and whites, hoping to gain favor and approval from them, and looking to go out here and get everything except support their own people. And that is a sad part about the complete failure of leadership. And sadly, the people of Chicago are getting what they deserve because they voted for this fool. And now that they voted for this fool, they've got 4 more years of failure, and they all get what they deserve because they had a chance to go out here and make actual change. And now they're just, nothing's going to change. And all they're doing is going back to the vicious cycle, which is the definition of insanity, doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result, which is why there's going to be no hope and no change for Chicago.
Yeah, and Charlie Rangle, he beat Adam Clayton Powell. Man, I know Harlem misses Adam. Y'all gotta miss Adam because Rangle, from what you're saying, Rangle wasn't good, wasn't that
No,
good.
he was incompetent. He's a bootlick.
Oh, young man, I am not a bootlick. I pay people to lick my shoes and shine them real buckety. But what did you think of? It's a bad Charlie Ringle impression, but what did you think of the reparations video I just showed you with Barbara Lee and Cori Bush?
It's just another bootlick and another bootlicking clown. And again, we just keep supporting these people instead of showing them the door. And what we need to do is show these people the door because clearly they're not about supporting us. If they want to support those white slave masters, we need to leave them to those slave masters and stop supporting these people. Because if you keep supporting these same toxic people, you're going to get the same toxic results.
Yeah, toxic results indeed. Shawn, yeah, and this whole thing just looked fake. This was How long do you think it took them to write the script for this?
Probably less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and take this video so we can show everybody we support reparations. But let's do it so we can get on the FBA train. And by the way, just looking at this, it looks like Congresswoman Bush was just recently reelected in last year in 2022. If I'm not mistaken. I'm asking, she's a member of the squad, by the way. I'm telling everybody to pay attention, especially in my family out in St. Louis. So her term ends on January 3rd, 2025. So she's got, next year will be the election, right? So 2024, y'all got to pay attention to this. Y'all got to chill out and vote and get her ass. Get these people out. If they're not doing anything for you, if they're not helping the community, if all they're doing is a photo op, they don't need to be in office. Quit voting. Quit voting for them. Yeah, Chicago is like gonna be New York with Eric Adams. None of these black mayors we got do shit. That's just the truth. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to talk about this, Shawn. Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, takes up for Daniel Penny, which is this, the big news that's been coming out of New York. She actually stated that she thinks that Daniel Penny deserves to be pardoned for killing your Jordan Neely. But as you know, or especially people, even someone who has not taken law school, would realize that nobody gets a pardon for murdering someone, especially if they have not been tried yet. And Governor Haley, former Governor Haley, asked Governor Hochul, or stated to Governor, I don't know if she actually talked to Governor Hochul, but I think she just made a statement that your Governor Kathy Hochul should pardon Daniel Penny for allegedly choking Jordan Neely to death. Now, he's not charged with murder. He's facing manslaughter charges. And Shawn, I know you've done a video on that. But this also shows you how incompetent a governor, this is a former governor, I'm sure she has had pardons come to her desk. Why would she fix her mouth? Now, she's not sitting in office, she's a free citizen, but she fixes her mouth to say, I would think a former governor, she wants to ask the governor to do a pardon for a man who has not even been set for, hasn't had his day in court, not even been set for trial. And Kathy Hochul, to her credit, corrected her. She said, I would think a former governor would know how a pardon works. It works after someone's been convicted of a crime. You don't pardon after there's just been an indictment, number one. So wrong on that front. Hochul told NY1. Secondly, she states, let the process play out. The district attorney indicted after serious deliberation, looking at the facts, witnesses, the video, and my view is that this individual who was killed on that subway had mental health challenges and deserved to walk off that subway alive. But yet, the rednecks, the crap is from the right. See, I don't care for the left or right. It's racism is racism. If it's right wing, left wing, it's all the same bird. But this shows you how pathetic these people are. And these are the ones who are praising this man for killing this individual. And yes, it's all alleged he has his day in court. I get all of that. But I'm willing to bet the farm, Shawn. These are the same people who talk about going to church, how they love God. We believe in the Bible. We put our hand on the Bible and swear before the Lord. You are the same people that our Lord warned about that said there would be hypocrites. You've turned my father's house into a den of thieves. How they have hypocrites in my father's house. Because you claim to know me, as God said, as Jesus said, but if you knew me, then you would have kept my word. If you knew me, you would keep my commandments. And what does the fifth commandment say? Thou shalt not what, Shawn?
Kill or steal, one of them.
It's kill. It's kill for this point. He killed somebody. And y'all are defending him? Yes, and look, I get he's entitled to due process. Yes, there's going to be a trial. He deserves to have his day in court. There may be some things we don't know. And yes, I have to say it's alleged, but the coroner says it was a homicide. Everybody looked, we saw the video. But they want to defend this. This is a former governor saying this, but this shows you the incompetency. It's not just the incompetency, the bitter hatred that is there for black people. And to be fair, Shawn, Governor Hochul, as well as Eric Adams, wasn't too nice when it came to Jordan Neely initially. You're up there in New York and you saw the press conferences they did where they were trying to tiptoe and code the line to the right. So go ahead, Shawn.
Well, Nikki Haley is Arkham certified because you cannot ask for a pardon unless someone is convicted. And it just shows how this presidential candidate isn't fit for office, because the president of the United States cannot go out here and just give a pardon to somebody as related to a state-related matter. And because when I had proposed this for Bill Cosby as related to Donald Trump, I realized that it wasn't possible because, again, this was a state matter and not a federal one. And again, when it looks like Nikki Haley just is, again, completely incompetent, because she's sitting here looking to try to get a acquittal for a man who was clearly shown on video to have participated in a, as I see it, murder of an individual. And this whole thing just shows me how completely distorted the reality of Nikki Haley truly is. And the whole thing is that her perception of reality shows how completely insane she is, because she's looking to justify the murder of a man, and she's looking to try to give this murder a pass. And that just shows how reprehensible she is, because Daniel Penny is not a hero. No, he's a vigilante, and vigilantes are something that leads to destabilization of a country, because it shows the complete failure of leadership in that country. And it shows the complete failure of leadership in that country because it shows that those individuals in that country are not setting order in that country. And if you've got vigilantes running around, you have chaos ensuing in your country. That's what's happening when you have vigilantes in charge, and giving a vigilante a pass further destabilizes the country. Now,
Yeah.
I know that people like Nikki Haley want to think that giving a pass to a vigilante is something that should be justified, but that's something that again shows that we really have poor leadership in this country, because no vigilante should be condoned for taking the life of someone who could never defend himself, because this mentally ill individual, um, he couldn't defend himself, and Jordan Neely had no way of understanding that he was in danger. No, he was a frustrated, angry, homeless individual who was looking to get some money for some food or get some help from somebody. He felt frustrated about the direction and the state of his life, coming out of the foster system and having no support system at all. And the people who failed him in the government, they basically messed this boy up and made it where isn't in a place of stability. And again, we have them sitting there. We have somebody like Nikki Haley looking to give a pass to Daniel Penny, but Daniel Penny doesn't get a pass from me because vigilantes don't get a pass. No, vigilantes aren't heroes. And the big problem we have here in America with guys like Kyle Rittenhouse, George Zimmerman, and Daniel Penny is we try to make these people into heroes. And that just shows how warped America's perception of reality is, because we're taking vigilantes and making them into heroes when they are actual villains. And these villains actually are going to make less people safe, because we're going to think, okay, we can go out here and reward people for acting impulsively. And if we reward people for acting impulsively like vigilantes, we're not going to have a country for much longer, because when we, the people, are out here without any sort of accountability, you're not going to have a nation. What you're going to have is a nation in crisis.
Yeah. Y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. We're already a nation in crisis, Sean, unfortunately. And this is just icing on the cake. She is not fit to be president. She's not fit to be a dog catcher, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't even want her to be a postal worker. She should not be in politics. But this is who you got representing you. This is a big deal, because this is somebody that wants to be the president, and they condone vigilantism. These are the same people who want to speak up and talk about the Second Amendment. And when it comes to these mass shootings, they're the first to cry, we need to discuss mental health. You had a mental health situation. You don't think that applies for him, for Jordan Neely? There was nothing in that video I saw that warranted what that man did. Barring he had some type of dangerous weapon in his hand, or he threatened to kill somebody, which all intents and purposes, as of now, nothing has come out that has suggested that. But you want to justify it because Daniel Penny didn't just kill Jordan Neely. He killed an N-word to you. And that's what it is. If it were white on white, you probably wouldn't be saying this stuff. I know for a fact you wouldn't be saying it. If it was black on black, you damn sure wouldn't have said something unless we were complaining about a police officer getting shooting a young black man. Well, what about this? What about black on black crime? Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, guys. Last thing I want to talk about, Sean, before we get out of here. Why don't you, before we get out of here, and I got one last topic, why don't you tell everybody what your live stream would be about tomorrow?
I still haven't decided what the live stream is going to be about, or whether I even want to do a live stream. I mean, the last one I did, there wasn't much traffic. So it's up in the air. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to talk about, even if I do want to talk about anything.
Yeah. So, last thing I want to talk to you about is John Morant just plain stupid. Now, I've talked about Ja. I don't really want to keep going over it, but I had to discuss this because this is still in my feed, and I wanted to hear what you have to say. You know, for those that know, Ja back in March got suspended because he was brandishing a weapon in a strip club on IG. He was suspended 8 games for conduct detrimental to the team. He said he learned his lesson, such and such. But then he was on IG Live again, although it wasn't his IG, it was a friend's, so called a good friend, who, where we saw both of them while they're listening to some hip hop music out in Tennessee. Ja's holding a firearm. Now, Ja has been suspended indefinitely, and everybody has called him stupid, an idiot. You're dropping and fumbling the bag. He has actually other issues from the past, recent, not distant past, mind you, but I've heard stories. Of course, he hasn't been tried or convicted, but stories of him. Professor Blacktroop was talking about it, how he had went to a mall when his mom called him because somebody was being disrespectful to her at a Foot Locker and attacked a young man, also attacking another young person at his mansion. There was an incident there where the police were called, I believe. They've had incidents with uh, him supposedly showing up at his sister's school, one of her games, and his posse, his entourage coming in, starting stuff. I remember just recently, a few years, just not even a year ago, when Aqib Talib, his brother, I believe, is in trouble for murder because there was a shooting at a Pee Wee football game. Anybody remember that? I do. Yeah, Yaqub Talib. He was indicted for murder. This was in September of last year, and then the family just recently filed a lawsuit against him for wrongful death. Now, that being said, John Morant, I have to say, he didn't kill anybody. No injuries occurred, but you still, I guess, it was still stupid. After you said you wouldn't do it, you did it again. A gun is not a toy. You never pull out a firearm, as they say in our permit classes when you get a concealed weapons permit. Never pull out a gun unless you're ready to use it. And Ja is trying to be about that life, something he was never raised in. So I look at this, and Shawn, this reminds me of the Gilbert Arenas situation. Gilbert Arenas was a star basketball player in the early 2000s, and he played uh, for Washington. He played for the Washington Wizards, I believe. And interesting enough, they went to him, and they were asking what his opinions were on it. But he got suspended for majority of the NBA season because he brought a handgun to an arena. And apparently, allegedly, he used to be making threats, allegedly, to some people. But that's what this reminds me of. And I believe Gilbert he had a 6-year, $60 million contract. John Morant has he almost had a $200 million contract. I shared it with everybody. It's not just with the NBA. His salary with the NBA, he supposedly was going to get, I believe, he signed a big extension where he was going to get 80 million, but then he had endorsement deals with Powerade, Nike. And and I believe the Powerade ads, they dropped him as a result of it. So he lost a lot of money. He's worth money. He's losing a lot of money, and he's a father. But I want you, Shawn, to tell us. I want to know what you think about what's going on with him. Is it just stupid? Is it the hip hop culture that's causing this? What is this?
This is just another man in crisis, like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. Now, after watching Professor Black Truth's video, it's clear to me that John Morant came from a beta male father, even though he was raised in the suburbs. And because he had no actual man to lead him and teach him how to be a man, we got another beta male who came from another beta male. And because John Morant does not have a father who taught him how to be a man, we have a male running around who is confused as related to what it means to be a black man. And because John Morant doesn't know what it means to be a black man because he never saw his father taking a leadership role as a man, he has taken on the hyper masculine identities that he has seen presented on white corporate media as related to these thugs, as related to these gangster rappers, and as related to all of these images he has seen in many of the hood movies of the 90s. This is what John Morant has created as his masculine identity. And as he has taken on this hyper masculine identity, he's sitting up here thinking that this is what an actual man is. But in actuality, he has none of the traits of a man who has been raised by a father. He does not know how to lead his family because I've learned from Professor Black Truth, he has a son and he has no way of understanding on
Well, he
how
has a
to.
daughter.
I mean, he has a daughter. Well, she still has a child, and he doesn't know how to lead at all because the decisions he's making are going to lead to him basically winding up out of the NBA and winding up on the road to becoming a Pookie. Now, John Morant thinks it's positive to be a Pookie. He thinks it's okay to be a thug or a bad boy because he's never really experienced the consequences of being a Pookie. He thinks that being a Pookie is something good because the only consequences he's ever run into are basically a suspension from the NBA. He's never had to actually deal with actually being arrested, actually having his freedom taken away, and the possibility of having to go to the penitentiary and have to deal with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, and Melvin, and the possibility of being traded for commissary like those peppermint balls, Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, off-brand Oreo cookies, or living in a 6x8 cell and being told what to do by a CEO. That's what John Morant doesn't understand that he would experience if he had to deal with actual consequences. And if he had to deal with actual consequences, John Morant would basically would stop acting like a fool because he doesn't really understand that all of those thugs he emulates, all those bad boys he emulates, those men deal with consequences, and they deal with consequences as related to their actions. And that's what John Morant doesn't understand. No, he buys into the ideas of Madison Avenue in Hollywood, believing he can be a thug or a bad boy ball player because he doesn't understand that's not being black. Because anybody who has grown up in places like the South Bronx, like I have, we understand that our blackness is not tied to those images in mainstream media. In fact, we walk away from those images because we know that's not who we are. And because we have a secure sense of our black identity, we're not looking to take on a phony baloney social construct created by Madison Avenue advertisers and Hollywood movie studios. And that's where I see John Morant as a sad black male because he doesn't understand what it is the definition of being a black man. A black man is somebody who runs his household, somebody who can lead his family, somebody who can stand up on his own. And that's what his mother never got. She's sitting up here getting her son into these troubles. Again, that whole situation with that manager, with that store, she could have easily settled herself, showing me that John Morant never learned critical thinking or problem solving skills because a man of character, he's not gonna go out here and look to bring his entourage to cause havoc in a business. He's not gonna look to go pulling guns on people allegedly, and he's not gonna go out here looking for trouble because any man of character would tell John Morant that that's not how a man does things because a man who's on code knows how to critically think, knows how to conflict resolve, and knows that every action he takes can have an impact on him, and knows that he needs to watch himself because a black man has a target on his back. And sadly, John Morant isn't aware of that target the same way the late Tupac Shakur wasn't aware of that target. And Tupac Shakur played a thug as related to his image and actually started to believe his own hype. And that's what led to his demise. And if John Morant continues on, this may lead to his demise because if he runs into real gangsters the way Tupac did, he may wind up in having the same fate that Tupac Shakur wound up in. I'm just hoping somebody gives John Morant an intervention and teaches him about the reality of being a black man here in America and show him that this is not black and that he's been blessed to live in the suburbs and live a life that most black people wish they could live. And he needs to count his blessings because he could easily wind up losing everything that he's accomplished in his life. And it's all because I believe subconsciously he believes he doesn't deserve it. And that could be the thing that leads to him basically participating in this type of dysfunctional behavior. John Morant needs an intervention as related to his behavior. He needs real brothers to come out here and tell him about what being black is and give him an explanation and an understand and show him that this black that he's trying to be isn't who black people are, and that his attempts to try to define black through this whole thug culture is him going out here and supporting the narratives of white supremacy.
Well, let me say this. He's set to lose. He's on his rookie contract, but he got an extension. And he is set to lose. He hasn't lost it yet, but his endorsements with Nike and Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola company owns Powerade. So in these endorsement deals, they have morals clauses. They have confidentiality clauses. And already, I believe the head spokesperson for Powerade stated they don't plan to air any more ads at this time regarding John Morant because he got suspended again. So for those that are saying, man, you being hard or you shouldn't do it, this ain't you. Look, you're right, it ain't me. But you know what? He will end up in a position probably worse than me and other people if he keeps going down this path. Yeah, what he did wasn't against the law. I've seen people put videos of themselves holding guns, people posting with guns. That in of itself is not against the law. But if you have a contract with someone, you sign to a network, you're employed by someone. It's just like I'm employed by the public defender's office. We have standards and professionalism that we are supposed to uphold when we're in court. If I don't do that and I don't follow that, then we're gonna have a problem. They could get rid of me. And here with the NBA, with the Nike and Coca-Cola, which you've been blessed with, that most people, Shawn, would kill for that money. Who wouldn't want $80 million in their bank account right now to just do 3 hours work one night? Me. I can't do it like them, but yeah, everybody would want that. So Ja's hurting himself. And I know, yeah, white people do it too. There's a difference, but hey, it's one thing if they catch you, it's your first time, yeah, and they go hard, I'll give you a pass. But second time, it's on you. It's hard to fight against white supremacy when you keep doing it over and over again, and you live in the stereotype. So I'm hoping brother will get it together. He is young, but I don't think he should be suspended for the rest of the year. I think that's excessive. But something needs to shake him. But yeah, his dad is nowhere there. And his parents, and here's another thing, Shawn, he shouldn't be doing all of that thugging and hugging. If he's got the money, why is his parents, his mom telling him come over and do this? Allegedly. The mom should know better.
What's sad is that these people have come from a middle class background and they don't even know how to handle money or how people with money are supposed to conduct themselves.
Well, he's the breadwinner, so his father is not going. If he says something to his son, that is, he knows his son's not going to like, guess what? He's going to cut him off. He brought the mansion for them. That's his name on that. They live next to him because he provided that. So yeah, I think they just don't want to mess with his money. They don't want to mess with him. But you know, they gotta shape. They better. He's better shape up. NBA dumb boy. Somebody said NBA's dumbest wannabe gangster. Kwame Brown went off. As much as I don't like Stephen A. Smith and Charles Barkley and all those guys, you know, they were right. He just gave them energy. And this is, I didn't even see this, but Gilbert Arenas said John Morant, did he call him a generational idiot?
Second, what advice would you give Ja now that he hasn't made this All-NBA team, now that his character has been called into question by the people that are responsible and have control over him getting his bag?
But I told you this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I said this is going to happen. So he has the most important summer of this man's career is this summer. He better lock himself in the gym, in the house.
You say you need to do?
Huh? Yep. Cut them drip. Come back next year. Yes.
See, I'm gonna go.
Yes.
Turn back into Demetrius.
I'm gonna go a different. Like y'all say, I'm gonna go.
Gilbert knows because he lost all that money. You saw how big them eyes got. He having flashbacks. He's saying you got cut
yes.
off.
See, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Huh? Yep. Cut them drip. Come back next year. Yes.
Damn. He wanted him to go full corporate. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Computer Robots X, I got a question for you and Shawn. How do we deal with an educated beta male? I'm sorry. How do we deal with, and educate beta male fathers to be better men and male role models to their sons? Shawn?
Well, the only way we can do that is by investing in men and men taking the time to give these beta male fathers some sort of guidance. I mean, with a beta male father, sometimes they don't know what they're doing. And what they need is another man to go out here and give them some guidance so that they can learn how to operate and function the way a man is supposed to be.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. By doing, and I would further say, by doing what we're doing now, speaking out, standing up, setting examples, by just our by just how we conduct ourselves, by how we come here, how we talk, how we dress. That's how you set, how we address others. That's how you set that. Dress for success. We're gonna wrap this up now. Shawn, if you want to do a plug-in, you can.
Well, again, John Haynes 1987 is coming out next week on May 26th, and I'm asking everybody to go out and pick up a paperback version right now, or get the Kindle version by putting in a pre-order. Right now, I have 4 pre-orders, and I would like to get it up to 10, and I can only do that with your support. So I'm asking everybody to go out here and put in a pre-order for the Kindle John Haynes 1987, or pick up a paperback version today so you can have it for next week.
I'm asking people to please buy the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby on Kindle. I know we've been talking for a long time to get it in paperback. I'm actually working with my illustrator, Bill Walco, to do that. It's just taking a little while, but it will be ready. I won't have much. But in the meantime, if you can buy it on Amazon Kindle, it's the easiest way. It's the quickest way, right? So go ahead and do that. Just download it. It's just one click away. It's a great read. It's long, but even Bishop Scott, and shout out to him, he was reading it and enjoying it. So you'll want to get that. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby. Also, if you'd like to advertise, hit me up on gavin.grich1@gmail.com. You can join our Patreon. I had some comedy videos uploaded there. By the way, I got to tell y'all, Saturday, I didn't say this, but this past Saturday, we had a hell of a comedy show. If you missed it, you missed it. I'm going to put some clips up, but if you're in the New Orleans area, you got to come out to these comedy shows that I've been doing. We've been roasting, cooking them at the Verdict. It's been nothing but fun laughs. We got great comedians that have come out, great people that have come out enjoying themselves, having a good time, and that's all it's about. And we love doing it for y'all. But Yeah, G Rich Productions is the hottest comedy promotion in the city of New Orleans. Yes, I put my name on it. Damn it, it is. And it's only going to get better. We're going big, baby. We're going across the country. We're going to eventually go across the world. We're going to sell out arenas and stadiums. It's coming. Trust me. And you want to get on the money train. So follow me, ladies and gentlemen, on Eventbrite. And I'm on Instagram, G Rich Productions. And follow me here for get more updates. But we had a blast doing that show, Shawn. So I only wish you could have came.
Okay.
You're gonna have to book a flight to New Orleans one day, bro.
Maybe when my money gets better.
Did you you're not working with that comic book company again? Or you were trying to work with a comic book company at once?
Oh, I wasn't working with a comic book company. I was publishing my own comic.
But I thought you didn't you send a resume or try to work with
I sent one many years. I got asked to do one many years ago. They never got back to me.
Okay. All right. Well, another thing you're gonna have to probably do. This is just a recommendation. This is for everybody, but I've learned this too. This is why I started to get in the comedy promotion side. You got to have multiple streams of income, basically, to survive now in America, because the dollar is dying out, and the regular 9 to 5 is not enough for a family, a father to feed a family, or a mother to support her children, and herself. So you got to actually have multiple streams. But the important thing is to have those streams to make sure that it's passive money, meaning you're not working for it, but it's working for you. I'm working for my money now as a public defender and as a comedian. It's not an easy thing, but I'm doing it. Just keep at it, right, Shawn?
Yeah.
It'll get there. All right, buddy. Well, I will see you later, and I'll check out your live stream tomorrow. And
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, go to our Facebook page at Commonwealth Cause. Also, check out Nornie'sCreoleBlends.com. Trying on chicken, meat, or fish. Nornie's goes great with every dish. We thank Shawn for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get out and wrap this up and get me some rest. This has been another edition of Random Topic Thursdays, the hottest live stream on YouTube. Be one, be safe, and be blessed. Love y'all. Peace, family.